we developed these immune health grades, which are measuring the balance, not the CD4 CD8 ratio, a balance between, as I'll explain in a minute, between CD8 and CD4 cells. And the other is this RNA or transcriptomic metrics that I described to you earlier. That is SAS1, which is survival associated signature 1, mortality associated signature 1. So these are immunocompetency genes, these are inflammation genes. So what we did here was in 2010, I believe, or 14, I'm forgetting. Sorry, forgive me, my brain is not very sharp right now. But we measured in a paper in New England Journal of Medicine, I believe it's 2010, we screened about 14,000 HIV negative people and established that the median CD4 count of human populations who are HIV negative is about, the lower boundary was about 800. So we use this as the metric. So if you were to send your lab results to LabCorp, and it'll tell you that the normal range is from 340 odd or 350 all the way up to 1500. Well, if I had 351 CD4 cells, I wouldn't be a happy person, okay? So we needed to metricize what is a normal. Remember, I'm trying to look at the degree of deviation from normality or some sort of a normality. So we established that CD4 count of 800 is what I would call as a good benchmark to have. And we use the CD4 CD8 ratio simply as a proxy, an indirect proxy for the level of CD8 cells. We are not studying the ratio. I am studying a balance between CD4, CD8, and CD4 cells. So people who have a ratio above 1, they have preserved lower amounts of CD8s compared to their CD4. So we then took people who have a ratio above 1 and a CD4 count of 800. That was grade 1. We then took people who have a ratio of 1, which means they've restrained the CD8, but in the context of lower CD4 cells. Then these two groups have got an inverted ratio, less than 1, so they have got expanded amount of CD8 cells relative to their CD4s. And this is in the context of having high CD8s with lower CD4s, and this is having high CD8s with low CD4s. So 4 grades over here.
So Neil, quick question.
Yeah.
And I have many, but I'll save most of those for later. And for those who don't know, who are going to yell at me for interrupting, Sunil and I discussed this ahead of time, so it's good with us. So hopefully it's good with the audience. So CD4s, 800, I get that that's in the best immune health grade, the best IHG grade. But I think your population was 40 to 79-year-olds or somewhere in that range. Do you know the average value for CD4 in, say, 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, a bit younger, and then correspondingly the average levels for CD8 in youth?
Yeah. So the general ratio across all ages will always generally be a 2-to-1 ratio. Younger adults or younger children will have higher CD4 cells. We did not study younger children, but our cohort goes all the way down to 15 years of age. It doesn't matter how you stratify your ratio and your ratio and your CD4 cells, as I will show you, because we have cohorts as young as 5-year-olds with a particular disease or infectious disease that I will mention in a minute, and it exemplifies the problem that we are dealing with. So more important than an absolute value is the relative proportions of these cells. So again, the ratio is not an actual, I'm not interested in an actual value of CD8. I'm interested in what is the relative amount of CD8s relative to the amount of CD4 counts. And
Gotcha.
that will become very clear here. So
okay, wait. One more quick question. Hang on.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and then it seems that CD4s decline during aging and then CD8s increase during aging, resulting in a more likely to have a lower ratio with age. Or true?
Yeah. So then you are really talking about averages. So you're talking as a group, how people behave.
Yep.
But what you will see in a minute, that there are 80-year-old people who do preserve the best grade as much as a younger person does. And there will be younger people who look like 80-year-old people compared to um, who younger people whose profiles look like 80-year-old people profiles. So as a group, yes, you will see as an average, that is what would happen. But as I said, that's an average. It doesn't help me at all as a physician or you if you were to come to me and says, I want to know how good my immune health is. Most doctors will roll up their eyes and not know what to do about it. So the idea is to metricize it. I can't metricize an average going down or up. I mean, as I said, an average of 350 cells at LabCorp may sound 351 might sound normal. It doesn't sound normal to me. I would be very concerned if I had 351 CD4 cells, regardless if I was 20 years old or if I was 80 years old. I don't believe in averages. Average is just a framework, but doesn't really help me at all. So the goal for us really as clinicians is to metricize it in a way that we can control heterogeneity. If we don't control heterogeneity in a population, if we just continue to use averages, we will generally perform conflated studies. So, for example, if I were to just take high CD4 count people, I'd be conflating group 1 and 3. If I were to take people who had low CD4 counts, I'd be conflating groups 2 and 4. If I was to, and so on. So that conflation is a big problem.
I'm with you 100%. Don't get me wrong. And I agree, but the question that I'm basically asking is, relative to population-based averages, that can inform. So for example, I'm with you on the metricizing. I've blood tested 62 times over the past 10 years. And a majority of my audience, a lot of people in my audience are doing that too. So, but the population-based average, if you know that CD4s are declining and you look at your own data, independent of whatever CD8 is doing at the moment, if you know that the CD4 declines during aging in the average population and your data is 800, 750, 700, 650, then I'm on a bad trend here. I need to do something to reverse that. So I look at the population-based averages as informing in terms of where your own directionality should be, aiming higher for CD4s and resisting age-related decline and aiming lower for CD8s and resisting their age-related increase.
Sure. But then what do I do with that information? If I would rather be able to, if I just looked at my CD4, I would like to bin myself in some category, then and further subdivide these categories that I could rationalize because I, if I don't have population-based averages in America that I could use. In Mississippi would be different. People have poverty, greater poverty there, or South Texas would be a little different than me over here. So that doesn't really help me. What really helps me is that I can bin it, and then I could even ask, okay, I fell sick today, and I could tell my physician, I was in grade 1 before, but today I got COVID. Now I'm in grade 2A or 2B or 2C. But hey, guess what? I rebounded back up to grade 2A, and I didn't ever go back up to my original grade 1. Now monitor me. So I think it is really about being able to categorize oneself, if you will. So, like for myself, I used to be a grade, my grade right now, my grade started off as a 2A, as I'll show you in a minute. During COVID, I went to a grade 4. It took me a long time to get back to grade 2. So I could monitor it. So if I just followed myself as a group average, I would never be able to inform myself or others or my caretakers as to how my shifts are occurring. So, more important is not just to see where I am relative to my age, but relative to see how I shift when I get my next disease, for example, or my infection or something of that nature.
And just to add a little bit more, if you have data in your own youth, right? So if you have 20 years of CD4s and CD8s, and even if you have the transcriptional data yet, which isn't commercially available, but if you know what your immune health profile looked like at 40, and now you have an infection, and now you know what it is after infection, and it isn't reverting back to where it was in the 40, now it's okay. What can I do? Diet, lifestyle, supplements, prescription meds, whatever it may be, to try to help your immune system revert back to that more youthful state.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
With you
Absolutely.
100%, Sunil.
Yep, absolutely. You see, um, if I had acute kidney failure, I would know my B1 and creatinine went up. I could stage it. The difference between infectious disease doctors, gerontologists, and people with cancer, the cancer docs are way ahead of us. They like to metricize, group people, stage cancer very well. We don't stage diseases very well. So it's important in my books. For me, this is a form of staging. Immune health is the largest organ system in the body, but physicians don't measure it. It's very sad. So that is, I think, if I had to leave a parting message, it really would be that we are ignoring a very large component of our repertoire of immune of health systems, if you will.
Wait, just to add a little more context, when you say the immune system is the largest organ in the body, is that by number of cells? So total white blood cells are more than liver cells or kidney cells?
Well, every organ system of your body has got the immune health system,
Hmm.
from microglia in your brain, which will be there to fight it, fight infections, the glial system as well, the neurons as well. The brain gut axis is very well known. The brain immune axis is very well known. Your entire microbial system of your gut, from your mouth to your anus, is a huge organ system. Kidney, liver, all have got immune cells embedded in them, spleen. So the fact is that we are being able to metricize those organ systems, but we are unable to, or inefficiently at a bedside level, monitor or make it accessible to have some better crude measures of immune health.
This is why your work, your lab's work is so important. So yeah, all right, sorry, continue,
No
please.
worries, all good. Thank
Yes.
you. So these are the four grades here. This is the large 3,000 person cohort. So you'll see that grade one is the most common. Grade two is the second most. In a generally good population, less amounts of grade three and four. Okay. Now, if you looked at the CD4 count here, you would argue that this CD4 count looks relatively normal. This goes back to your point. So I have relatively, I would not say there's biologically any difference over here. But if you look at the CD8s, this has got 525 median. IAG3's got twice the amount. If you look at low CD4 counts, it's the opposite. So here, these guys have got 675 and 616, no different. But this group 4 has got twice the amount. So by eye, just looking at CD4 and CD8, you can't intuit someone's immune health grades. So this is what it would look like. Grade 1 being blue, brown being grade 2, green being grade 3, grade 4. And we are taking the data from age 15 to greater than 90 years of age, and our capacity to preserve blue or the best grade goes down, and there's an expansion of the other grades. So, but there's, as I mentioned to you, even among people greater than 20, greater than 90, less number of people here, but those who survive, 22, among those 22, there are about 25% of those who do preserve blue over here. There is nothing that we will learn by studying averages. The only time we will learn anything in medicine is when we study the extremes of phenotype. So that none example over there is a great example of a person who lived a long life. So understanding her paradox is extremely important, as much as it would be a paradox for a young child to die at an early age who is otherwise generally healthy. So the extremes of phenotype is how I have lived my life in understanding disease biology. Okay. So, but on the other hand, the reason why studying extremes are so important is you will have younger people who have got black, and so they've got grade 4. These younger people, if you were to give them a flu vaccine, would be less responsive just as much as an older person would be less responsive. There will be some immune traits that are common to blue, brown to brown, regardless of age, as I will show you in a minute in our phenotyping work. Okay, so when people study the concept of age, they're comparing older to younger people, but you're studying younger people who are heterogeneous and older people who are heterogeneous, and that leads to confounding. Okay, across age, these are female and male. Male are have a greater propensity to degrade their immune health grade 1 across age. So this is not a this is sexually dimorphic across age, including postmenopausal. It's not all hormones. So the take-home message is some people resist, older persons resist resilience, degradation. The resistance is greater than females and males, and immune traits differ by two factors, age and the health grade.